Hey there, California 27. It's Mike Garcia coming to you from the nation's capital, actually in the rotunda of our capital next to our good friend, President Ronald Reagan, fellow Californian. And as you can see in the rotunda here, the People's House is open for business, lots of activity. So if you'd like to come out to Washington, D.C., take a tour, visit our office, we'd love to see you here. Busy week here this week in D.C. I'll be coming home this weekend for a couple of events back home in the district, up in the Antelope Valley, Santa Clarita, also down in the San Fernando Valley for a little spell, then back here to D.C. next week. This week we voted on a couple key bills. The first one is called the Show Up Act, which requires federal agency workers to actually come back to work. It's kind of crazy, but something like half of federal agency employees at this point are still working tele-remote. This is why the IRS is so slow in responding to constituents, why the VA is so slow in taking care of our veterans, and getting passports from the State Department is nearly impossible at this point. It's because these folks haven't been showing up to work. The pandemic is over, and they will now have to show back up to work with this piece of legislation. A second bill that we passed in the House is the Pandemic is Over Act, which effectively states that we are done with the COVID lockdown and the pandemic. The subtle nuance of this is this allows us to stop spending some of the money that this White House continues to spend, close to $500 billion that has not been liquidated to the states that should be going back to taxpayers as we get back to work and come out of the pandemic. We also passed the Freedom for Healthcare Workers Act. There's a large group of folks that are medical workers in the Medicaid, Medicare world that were required to take a vaccine or lost their jobs. This undoes some of that damage and allows them to come back to work without those requirements. Today we passed a resolution denouncing the horrors of socialism. This was actually a bipartisan effort. We ended up seeing more than 100 Democrats vote for us. It shouldn't be that hard to denounce socialism, something that is truly the opposite of our federal republic and the promises made in our Constitution. And so we have on the record the vast majority of Congress denouncing socialism, which is a big deal, obviously, especially in Congress. So next week we'll be back here. We'll be looking at various things. We will be constituting the committees. We'll start seeing bills coming out of the committees close to what is called regular order, meaning this is how we should be doing business. The committees meet, they vote on bills, they add amendments, and then those come to the floor for a vote. Those committee hearings will start in earnest next week. I had formational meetings this week for the Intelligence Committee that I sit on, for the Defense Subcommittee with an appropriations, and then for Energy and Water with an appropriations this week as well. I also met with SoCal Gas. If you haven't seen that social media post, I explained there in depth what's causing our gas prices to go up. Our SoCal gas bills have tripled, quadrupled in some cases. We do see that pain subsiding, but please look for that post and it'll explain that. I'm going to keep leaning on SoCal Gas and some of the companies that are contributing to this problem. We should not be paying as much as we are right now for gas. I attended the National Prayer Breakfast this morning. This is a bipartisan thing. President Biden was there, Speaker McCarthy, several hundred members of Congress, where we frankly just prayed together for reconciliation, for the betterment of our nation, realizing that we are one nation under God, not above him, not next to him, but one nation under God, founded on the principles of liberty and the constitutional rights therein, but a product of providence. And so happy and honored to participate in that. We do need more prayer in this country, not less, and I think that's very important. As always, if you want to stay abreast, we have a weekly newsletter. Just visit the website, mikegarcia.house.gov. Subscribe to the newsletter. We'll keep you abreast on everything happening here in D.C. and in the district. I'll be home tomorrow visiting Plant 42 up in the Antelope Valley on some key programs there. And then on Sunday, I have the honor of throwing out the first pitch at the Hart High alumni game. I think they're swearing a couple folks into their Hall of Fame as well, so you get to watch me embarrass myself throwing a pitch that's probably going to hurt for a couple of days. So next week, State of the Union, Tuesday night, we have President Biden coming to Congress to give us the State of the Union. My special guest will be Miss Tanya Owen. If that name sounds familiar, she's the widow of Sergeant Steve Owen from Lancaster, former sheriff who was brutally killed in the streets of Lancaster back in 2016. And was a nationwide story, the horrific story of one of our precious law enforcement officers being murdered in our own streets. And so we'll be inviting Tanya to be my guest, my special guest at the State of the Union address. And we'll come with some footage from that on Tuesday night. So as always, take care. If you need any help, need any assistance, please call our offices. All of our phone issues have been ironed out. We've got a team hitting the ground running and eager to help with your constituent services. So please call the office, visit the website, subscribe to the newsletter. Take care, guys.